I am not even remotely finished asking questions about what happened at the White House Correspondents Dinner, because the real motive behind that night is already starting to surface. Donald Trump wants to exploit this event to strip away our basic freedoms, to force through his ballroom funding, and somehow find a way to silence voices like Jimmy Kimmel. But the truth goes even deeper than that. We just got word of a massive Secret Service leak that I'm going to break down for you in a moment. But first, I want to look at a rare moment of actual truth that managed to slip through on the Fox propaganda network of all places. It came from Jessica Tarlov, and she absolutely dismantled this incendiary lie we keep hearing from the right, this idea that the left has a rhetoric problem. Think about the hypocrisy. Their president openly talks about wiping out entire civilizations, but the second we push back against his extremism, they claim we are a threat to his life. Jessica broke this down so perfectly that it's exactly where we need to start, right before we dive into the Secret Service leaks and a high level firing that just followed all of this news.
Massive gaslighting scene. I mean, the Hakeem Jeffries comparison, I think, is so unfair. He's talking about redistricting. He's not talking about a human being. He's certainly not talking about a Republican. And you say Democrats went out and called Donald Trump a threat to democracy. Absolutely. The guy still doesn't accept the 2020 results, and a majority of the party doesn't as a consequence of the fact that he continued to proliferate that lie. The language, part of the being the most important person, certainly in the country and arguably in the world, is that you have great responsibility to set the tone. And Republicans who are out there criticizing Democrats right now are the ones who run from reporters in the hallways when Donald Trump has done something absurd, like celebrate Rob Reiner's death, or say, Bob Mueller, good riddance, whatever it is. And you say you can run through things Democrats have said. Donald Trump, enemy within, communists, Marxists, fascists, radical thugs, vermin, garbage, traitors, sick, party of hate, evil, and Satan. You're right about that data. It's disturbing. But the more important data to this is what's come out from Cato, which is where the violence is actually coming from, checking exactly the cause. There has been an uptick in left-wing violence. Absolutely, it is an issue. I want to solve it. But it's still more right-wing violence. And
not true.
It is true.
The studies are, a lot of them are rebuked.
Okay, well, the Cato one, I actually read the debunking of the Cato one. And look at the classification of a 2009 shooting, for instance, which was allegedly, according to the debunking, about a complaint about dog pee, and doesn't mention that the guy had been posting on a neo-Nazi site. Everyone is going to go to their corners on this. It is regrettable, but the truth should still matter in it. And conveniently forgetting that liberals like President Obama, for instance, who had someone shoot into the White House where Sasha Obama was, got up to the second floor. Secret Service for like 5 days didn't even know what happened until someone discovered that there was glass remnants in there. We don't talk about that. Or the pipe bomber from 2018 who sent pipe bombs to Obama and Clinton, for instance, George Soros, et cetera, in court said motivated and radicalized by Trump. The responsibility lies with all of us, but it has to start at the top here. And I agree with Charlemagne that discussion is one that Republicans should start taking a part in if there is any way to come back together in this country.
So, number one, in terms of elections, there are people who still think George Bush is an illegitimate president. That never stopped for 8 years. It was unbelievable because of Florida. But I'm just saying,
but
in
Al
terms of
Gore
legitimate elections,
conceded.
but it was nonstop, and you had people protesting from day one. Al Gore.
He didn't.
So 2020, I guess it was, wow, that's so long ago. George Bush's first term into his second term, illegitimate president.
I had to start with Jessica Tarlov because she hit the nail on the head. This whole idea that the rhetoric of the left is the problem is a complete joke. Have you noticed that whenever a Republican makes this claim, they just use vague labels? It's always the left or them or those people. They can never give you a single concrete example. But if you asked me for an example of Donald Trump's violent rhetoric, I've got a list. I'd point to January 6th. I'd point to him literally standing on stage at his rallies, telling his followers to beat the hell out of protesters. I'd point to the fact that Donald Trump is a war criminal who is openly calling for the genocide of an entire civilization in Iran. That sounds like actual violence to me. But when they try to come for us, what do they find? They dig up some random TikTok account with 30 followers and try to paint it as the official platform of the entire Democratic Party. It is a lie, it is desperate, and it needs to be called out every single time. And that's not the only thing that needs to be exposed. We need to talk about the blatant lies they've been telling us about the events of that night. Not just the build-up, but what actually happened behind the scenes. We are seeing new information about the Secret Service that changes everything. We are going to get into a high-level firing, the truth about this ballroom obsession, and why I have a million more complaints about this entire situation. Secret Service agent may have shot colleague amid White House Correspondents Dinner chaos. The acting Attorney General has not ruled out the possibility of accidental friendly fire amid the chaos. A Secret Service member shot in the chest at the White House Correspondents Dinner. Of course, no injuries were sustained due to a bulletproof vest may have been mistakenly hit by a fellow agent. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanch declined to rule out the possibility in a news conference yesterday when asked who fired the shot that struck an officer's bulletproof vest and left him briefly hospitalized. Of course, sorry to say that there was no injuries by the problem into the billet from this court briefly hospitalized. He is in stable condition and doing well. After taking a beat, Blanch answered, "We want to get that right, so we are still taking a look at it." Blanch said a preliminary investigation found that this would-be presidential assassin Cole Thomas Allen allegedly was not struck by gunfire. He said the injured Secret Service agent was able to detain the 31-year-old suspect after he tripped. Blanch said that he injured the agent, who has not been identified, fired 5 times at Allen, but that each shot missed. While Blanch was willing to share details about the missed shot, he said he was not going to get into the exact ballistics because they are still being looked at and finalized. One Secret Service officer was shot in the chest, but he was wearing a ballistic vest that worked, Blanch said. So, no bullet injuries, I should clarify. Blanch, who is rumored to be auditioning for the full-time AG job, insists that the shooting is the latest proof that Trump's Ballroom project, which has already seen him demolish the historic White House East Wing, needs to resume construction as soon as possible, despite legal efforts to stop it. But as we are learning, according to Sky News, why of course Todd Blanch didn't want to confirm anything is because the Secret Service agent shot during the attempted assassination, the events of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, was likely struck by gunfire from another agent, per Sky News. Now we are hearing that the gunfire actually came from another agent, and the supposed assailant allegedly tripped, fell over, and wasn't even able to set foot inside the ballroom itself. Now let's be clear. Am I going to diminish the genuine fear that journalists in that room felt? No. But am I going to question the validity of the official story? Am I going to question everything we are being told by someone like Todd Blanch? You're damn right I am. I don't trust a single word coming out of these people's mouths. The stories just keep shifting. And of course, I'm going to be skeptical of Todd Blanch and a DOJ that has been turned into nothing more than a personal extension of Donald Trump. But look at what's actually being reported here. This new information. I'm not saying it completely changes the entire landscape yet, but it is just weird. It's bizarre that this is the official version of events, while Todd Blanch is just standing there going, I don't really know about that. I have a lot more to say about the White House Correspondents' Dinner later, but we have to keep one thing in mind. This event is now being used as the ultimate excuse. It's the excuse for the ballroom, and specifically the taxpayer-funded ballroom. And while they're demanding your money for this project, Donald Trump is simultaneously busy firing critical members of our government. Ballroom is coming as what? Donald Trump is firing critical members of our government. Trump fires all 24 members of the US National Science Foundation's governing body. Dismissal of the National Science Board is widely seen as the latest move to erase NSF's independence. Donald Trump yesterday fired all 24 members of the National Science Board, the body that oversees the National Science Foundation. Many science advocates see it as the latest step by the administration to erode, some would say, destroy the independence of the 76-year-old research agency. On behalf of Donald Trump, I am writing to inform you that your position as a member of the National Science Board is terminated, effective immediately. Reads a 24th of April email from the Presidential Personnel Office to each NSB member. Thank you for your service. The NSB is a unique entity within the US government. In addition to advising the administration and Congress on national science policy as a statutory authority to oversee the actions of the $9 billion NSF setting policy and approving large expenditures, its presidentially appointed members, typically prominent academics and industry leaders, serve 6-year terms with 8 members chosen every 2 years. You've heard it a million times. Donald Trump and his supporters love to say, if Trump cured cancer, the left would find a way to be mad about it. They'd say we need cancer, we love cancer, what about the cancer doctors? Give me a break. The reality? Donald Trump literally cut pediatric cancer research. He's currently firing scientific professionals en masse. People whose entire job is to ensure we are funding research and tackling the biggest issues of our time. So I don't think we're going to be having a debate about Donald Trump curing cancer anytime soon. He's too busy gutting the systems that actually do the work. But look at the timing. The purge of experts is happening right as Donald Trump is using the White House Correspondents Dinner as an excuse to make you pay for his ballroom. This is the same guy who already raked in hundreds of millions in dark money from secret donors. To call this sketchy would be the understatement of the century. It is beyond sketchy. It is a blatant shakedown. The Secret Service is now coming out and saying there was actually no real threat to the room. The guy tripped. He was neutralized before he could even get close. All the gunfire came from other agents. Everyone was safe. Everyone was protected. And yet, despite there being no actual breach, they're claiming we need to cough up $400 million of taxpayer money for Donald Trump's ballroom. A project that will probably end up costing double that by the time he's done. I have a lot of thoughts on that, and so does AOC. Check this out.
Wants this new ballroom that he's been trying to construct as a way to move ahead and protect himself and others during these big events. Is this something you would support authorizing in light of what happened on Saturday?
No. The president, let's be very clear here. The president he demolished the East Wing of the White House, a historic jewel of the American people, and he started to build this ballroom long before any incident. He also promised the American people that this was going to be built with private dollars. And so the idea that they are now trying to change the rationale for this in retrospect doesn't quite add up. And in fact, the White House long had facilities for hosting, which also included the East Wing of the White House, prior to them bulldozing the crown jewel of the American people. And so I don't believe that in an era where they are jacking up prices on the American people, when they are gutting everyone's health care, when people cannot afford to pay their rent and their mortgages, that we should be choosing our precious treasure, little treasure that we have in this country, to build an ornate castle on a scale of which is quite unprecedented and unbelievable without any sort of accountability to those funds. And I'm sure that anyone who believes in, these values of so-called waste, fraud, and abuse would agree with me on that.
When you look at everything we've learned today, the shifting stories, the lack of a real threat, and the blatant money grab, this entire situation is beyond nonsensical. It is absolute insanity. But as long as they keep pushing these lies, I'm going to keep calling them out right here on this show, every single day. If you're ready to stand with me and support independent media that actually does its homework, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like on this video to help us push back against the mainstream narrative. And for those of you who stayed with me until the very end, the ones who really want the truth, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Do not let them silence you. I'm Liam Prescott, and I'll see you in the next one.